So last week we made Japanese milk bread, and at the time I thought it was one of the best breads I'd ever tasted. Well, at the time. Things have changed since then, because I think I've just made it better. Yes, we're transforming this Japanese milk bread into brioche, but we're not stopping there. We're also adding chocolate chips because I'll find any excuse to add chocolate to a recipe. And let's be honest, is there anything better than the smell of freshly baked buttery brioche and rich dark chocolate filling the house? I don't think so. Now, as we mentioned, this isn't your typical brioche dough. We're using our Japanese milk bread from the previous video as the base of our dough. Then we're adding a whole heap of butter to the mix to create these light, fluffy, rich and buttery brioche rolls, but don't forget, chocolate as well. So the first thing we'll need to do is make the Japanese milk bread. Nothing's changed from the last video. You'll need to make your Tangzhong, place the dry ingredients into a bowl, mix in your wet ingredients along with the Tangzhong and knead it all together for about 10 minutes. You can find everything you need to know in my Japanese milk bread video. I'll put a link in the description down below. Once the dough's been made and you've been kneading it for about 10 minutes, you can add your butter. So take 100 grams of unsalted butter and add it a couple of pieces at a time to the dough and continue to mix the dough until the butter has been completely incorporated. This shouldn't take too long, but be patient. You don't want to rush and throw all the butter in at once. It can make it a little bit tricky for you to get everything mixed in properly, and you'll end up with some sort of awful, oily, greasy dough that's almost impossible to work with. Once all the butter's been mixed in, turn the dough out onto your work surface and work it into a smooth ball. I find the old slap and fold technique works quite well here, where you pick up the dough and you slap it down on the board and then kind of fold it over itself. It'll be a bit sticky, but that's a good thing. Just keep working with it and it will all sort of come together. Then just add a touch of flour just to make it a bit easier to handle, and then use your hands or a dough scraper just to give the ball its final shape and tighten it up a little bit. Transfer the dough to a bowl and cover and leave to prove until doubled in size. Personally, I like to do this stage in the fridge overnight, as it not only slows down the proving process and helps develop the flavour of the bread, but it also firms up the butter in the dough, making it a bit easier to work with later on. So once your dough is proved and firmed up, turn it out onto your work surface and flatten it out slightly with your hands. Now it's time for the chocolate. I'm using 70% dark chocolate for my brioche, but you can use milk chocolate, white chocolate, or if you can't make a decision, a mixture of everything. So sprinkle 150 grams of your chosen chocolate over the top and then use your hands to press it into the dough. Then roll it up a little bit like a Swiss roll, press the dough together and you can work it a little bit just to make sure that chocolate's evenly distributed. Once you're happy with your chocolate distribution, you can cut the dough into 10 pieces. If you want to weigh them to make sure they're all exactly the same size, go right ahead, you do you. But I'm not running a Michelin star establishment here, and I can live with some being a little bit bigger than others. Then, using the old claw technique, shape each piece of dough into a smooth little ball. The Japanese milk bread video goes into this in a little bit more detail if you want to check that out, but really you can use any technique that works for you. Just try not to handle the dough too much. We don't want to end up melting the butter and chocolate with the heat of our hands by excessive shaping. Grease and line some mini loaf tins with parchment paper, then gently shape your little chocolate brioche rolls into loaf shapes by pushing down on them and turning them into little cylinders. Do this with all the chocolate brioche and transfer them into the prepared tins. Once all your brioche are shaped and in tins, then just cover them. I like to put them in a lock and lock box like this, just to stop them from drying out while they're proving. Then put them to one side, leave them to prove for an hour or two, or until doubled in size. The dough should be puffing up above the tin when they're ready to go. Once proved, uncover and lightly brush them with a little egg and milk mix just to glaze them. Then stick them in the oven at 180 degrees for about 20-25 minutes until they're rich golden brown on top and firm to the touch. Once cooked, remove from the tin and leave to cool on a wire rack for as long as you can possibly bear. But don't worry, I won't judge you if you just want to dive in straight away. And that's it, brioche rolls done. Fantastic little breakfast snack, or just a guilty little pleasure when no one's around and you can demolish 7 at once. I'm not talking from experience or anything, no, at all. No. You don't have to cook these as mini little loaves. You can do one big one if you wanted to. It's absolutely up to you. It would just need a little bit longer proving probably and a little bit longer cooking. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you like this recipe, let me know by hitting the thumbs up down below. And if you're new here and you like what you see, why not consider subscribing as well? Please get in touch with me on Instagram, Facebook or TikTok and tell a friend about the channel. That would really help me out. I will see you next time.